Hello, this is the third in a series of 4 recordings about formatting the final assessment documents in KCB205 Professional Communication. In this one, I'll look at whitespace and framing. Let's start with whitespace. In one of my previous tutorials, some students questioned if it was too much whitespace in a previous student's example. If maybe there wasn't a need for as many subheadings. Well, this is a fair comment, and it again shows that there is no one way to put together a document, so personal preferences can play a part. However, the main point about whitespace in this, especially when it comes to proposals, is that it's very necessary to break a document up for ease of reading, and whitespace can certainly help with that. Take this, for example. Quite simply, this document is very difficult to read. There's so much text. It actually looks more like an assignment than a proposal, and it certainly does not suit a busy reader. This one, with the more white space and shorter sections, helps to draw attention to the presented ideas. So it's not just about adding space, but rather thinking about how you're going to mark or separate the different segments or sections. Let's talk more about that in your team consultations. A good thing to do, though, is to try different ways to see which works the best. By that I mean actually playing around a little bit with the document and try different ways to formatting. Look at 2 different ways of presenting the very same material. Well, maybe even ask for a second opinion from a colleague or a friend, which one looks or works the best. For example, let's look at space before and after title. The problem here is when space is equal between the title and text. It can be very misleading. Now see how the second headline just seems to hang there in the middle. Here's an alternative way with eliminating the space between heading and text. Or this one, having an extra space after a completed section. This is a very common approach because it keeps sections clearly marked and looks neat and professional. Here's a bit of a summary slide. Take some time to read it through. And remember, most definitely white space is more noticeable when it's not there. About using justified or rugged margins. Is one way better than the other? You'll get a lot of different opinions on this one. Well, look at some of the general ideas for each one on this slide. As with all design decisions, you need to think about who will be reading and why. What will help them, in this case, a very busy reader. So here are 3 examples. Version 1 is right and left justified. Version 2 is left justified and ragged right. Version 3 is right and left justified, with that stretched final line. Avoid version 3. Again, it's about the needs of the client. Personally, I always use version 2. Framing issues. I just mentioned stretching the lines. Two other things you want to be careful about that can take away from the professionalism of your document are called widows and orphans. As stated here, an orphan is when the first line of a new section is at the bottom of a page. And a widow is when the last line of the section is at the top of the next page. Avoid this in any writing, including assignments and job applications. It's good to remind you here that with your document, when it comes to the main text, so I'm talking about everything from the introduction all the way through the recommendations, proposals, and conclusions to qualifications if you wish. You do not need a new page for each new section. What I mean is that you don't have to write the introduction on one page and the situation analysis on the next page and the objectives on the next page, and so on and so forth. This can create too much white space. Business students might be taught something different, but I'm concerned with KCB205, and this is according to our style guide. Other framing issues. You will create your document in portrait, but there may be a need to have a landscape page if, for example, you have an image that has a greater width than height. Sometimes a Gantt chart is easier to read in a landscape page, but again, the aim is for ease of reading and understanding. This concludes recording 3. In later tutorials, when you bring a draft of your document, we can discuss specific questions you might want to ask. So at the moment, you might still be using the professional communication preparation template as your framework. But very soon, you will have to start to create the first draft of your team's final document. So get ready to show us your first draft in upcoming tutorials. If you wish to receive feedback about your work before you hand it in, well, that's actually called feed forward. Thank you.